and welcome to the next installment, the next episode of the Mind Management Mentors podcast. I'm a big believer, if it's in the mind, it can be managed. And I'm talking about absolutely everything from trauma, from abuse, from ADHD to autism and living life on your terms. And I think today's podcast is going to cover a lot of those subjects, especially coming from trauma. So I'm not going to introduce you. I'm going to allow you to introduce yourself.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me on, Cuddy, and it's wonderful to see you again. It's been a very long time. Mark Anthony, I'm actually a hypnotist. I've been a hypnotist for more than 2 decades. Absolutely love what I do. And I truly believe my life has turned around completely, not just a bit, turned around completely because of this, the mind. Yeah. And as you say, you can do anything if you put your mind to it. And that is absolutely true. I also believe, though, I will say, many people say change your mind, change your life. I don't believe that. I will tell you now. I believe you've got to change your environment first and then change your mindset and then you'll change your life. You can't just change your mind and then your life, because that way you could be in the same environment and you're going to go back down again. So you've got to change your environment first and then your mindset and then your life. And I promise you that's absolutely true. And use this and you'll change your life.
100%. Totally agree. Now for the podcast, we said a little bit, oh wow, Cuddy's got somebody on from Australia. But we actually do know each other. We've known each other for, I would say, probably on the cusp of each other, knowing each other and working together a few times. We worked together on cruise ships. I would say a good 6 years probably now, Mark.
Yeah, absolutely. It's got to be that. Must be about 6 years. Well, if you think COVID was what, 4 or 5 years ago?
And I was in Australia a couple of years before COVID.
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
fact,
So
the
probably
last
6 or
cruise I
7
got
years.
off, yeah, it was in Europe. Yeah, no, I do remember. So 6, 7 years that we've kind of known each other in the same circle.
Amazing.
And I saw you on somebody else's podcast. I was like, Mark would be a great person to get on the podcast. So today, we are going to talk about hypnotherapy, how it's helped you, how it helps your clients, but we're going to talk about the adversity and the struggles of life. That's going to be, and how it can and will make us stronger if we can get the perspective of understanding what's happened to us.
Yes.
I'm a big believer in change your thoughts, change your life. And I would say change your story. If we can understand how we can break down our stories, realize where those stories and meanings come from, then we have a big, massive opportunity to be able to really take back control of the life. And Mark, I know we just did 5 minutes before the podcast starts, which was, you are very accustomed to adversity.
Yes.
So we are going to go way back, Mark. We're going to go way back to the beginning, and we're going to go childhood. And you have a lot to discuss about childhood and the adversities that we have. So let's go way back, Mark. Let's go back to the start and tell us what your life was like growing up.
All right, I grew up on my birth certificate, it actually says born in a caravan, and it wasn't as a gypsy or a traveller. And I will tell you, some of my in-laws are travellers and they're great people, but it was actually, that's what it says on my birth certificate. So born in a caravan, I grew up in a one-parent family for quite a while. Mum got remarried, and then the domestic violence started. And we went through that for a long time. I've got 3 sisters and a brother. Brother moved to Italy with dad, or somebody I thought was dad, and I will tell you a bit about that later, because I only found out 3 months ago that he's now not. So that was 3 months ago, and if you think I'm, in my 50s now, so that was a bit of a sort of semi-shock to me. I went through, and because as a kid you sort of seek attention, especially from a one-parent family, and there's just no discipline. You've got no discipline because there's not a male figure. And the only male figure that we had at the time, as I say, was domestic violence for a long time. Mum then went out with a couple of other people. Again, one of them domestic violence through and through. And Christmas has just gone, And I just remember some of the Christmases there was no Christmas presents because he would take the money and go to the pub. So that mental abuse that you suffer, even things like that, silly things. That was some of the adversities. And then obviously the adversities of, I was a real, believe it or not, I was a firebug as a kid. And that was just to get attention, nothing else. It was to get attention. I set fire to a garage that was full of cars. I set fire to a shed that was full of paint, and it exploded everywhere. And this was when I was 5 or 6 years old. So the attention, I was seeking attention because we were getting the wrong attention at home.
Yeah.
Mum did what she could with us, did the best she could. And then it just got worse. It got worse and worse. And, into the teenage years, I then became a big car thief and a thief in general, to be quite honest with you. And I was stuck on glue sniffing for a very, very long time. It was just to get away from the world. It was just one of those things you just
Escape.
wanted to get away from everything. And that's right, it was the escape. And there was me and many others that started off on the glue. Then we went to marijuana, then marijuana, cocaine, and then I stopped, and they carried on. And I've lost 9 friends plus to drugs in the UK. I've just come back from there recently and found out I lost another one. So they're all to drugs. And and it's not only the poor people that do this. We had a very wealthy friend, or his mum and dad were very wealthy, and he took his own life. He blew his own head off with a shotgun because of drugs and things. So, it's not only people that are really sort of down in the dumps and that are from that poor, impoverished family or anything. It could be anybody. And so life, from there, I went to children's home. I was in children's home when I was younger. And that's where many of us suffered, not just sexual abuse, mental abuse, physical abuse. So that went on for a few years in there. Then I went to detention center, young offenders detention center, young offenders prison. That was 3 months. And what I found was I would go in and out of detention center every week, nearly every weekend. It was so easy. I'd go there on the Friday. The judge would put me in Friday. I'd come out on the Sunday, and it went on. It was so silly. It really was. You do the time, you do the crime, you've got to do the time. But it was, to me, it was just getting away for the weekend. So I'd go in detention center. I'd be out again on the Monday. I'd be in probably either the following week or the week after. And this went on and on until one day the judge said to me, just I was 17, nearly 18, and the judge actually said to me, and I thank him for this so often in here, obviously. I don't know if he's up there by now. He was quite old at the time, but may he rest in paradise if he is. He said to me, Mark, I'm going to give you a short, sharp shock. He said, this is nonsense. He said, I'm fed up with this. He said, you're in and out all the time. He said, I'm going to give you a thing called a short, sharp shock. And I was due to go to Pakistan. Believe it or not, I got a job in Pakistan. And I was due to go there, and the judge said, I'm going to give you 3 months. And I was literally due to go to Pakistan with a company a few days later. They picked me over about 300 or 400 other people. And these people were a lot older than me. They were, wiser. They were smarter. I very much disliked school. I got expelled from school, suspended from school, hated school, left at 14 and a half years old. And it was just one of those things that when he gave me the short, sharp shock, I was in there for 3 months. But to be quite honest with you, you can learn more about, the criminal world inside than you can on the outside. It was ridiculous. But he said, you'll either be in and out of prison for the rest of your life, or you'll turn your life around. And I chose to turn it around. It wasn't easy. I'm not going to sit here and tell you it was easy, because after being such a street rogue for many, many years, for pretty much all my life, it wasn't easy. It took me a long time to sort of get everything down pat and, to turn it around. But nowadays, I can promise you, I'm probably one of the most honest people you'll ever meet. It's incredible, and yet years ago, I would have probably stolen that watch off your arm if I was sitting next to you. It was terrible. I was a real, absolute little fucker when I was young. Can we swear on here, mate?
Yeah, you can.
Okay, just checking. Bit late now though. So yeah, I was terrible when I was younger. And then I decided, once I went to Pakistan, because when I came out the detention center, they said to my mum, look, we'll wait for him. They chose 4 people out of all these hundreds of people. And they didn't know my background. They didn't know who I was. I just put on a piece of paper, I know I can do it. Just give me a try. And that was it. That was my words on the paper. And they did. They chose me, another guy, and 2 women. And we were off to Pakistan. So when I did get out of detention center, I was literally on a plane probably a week later, and in Pakistan. And that's when I started turning my life around. I started reading
the environment.
Absolutely, change the environment. That's it. I know if I would have came out and got back in the old environment, I would definitely be in and out of prison. And I don't think I would have taken any more of the drugs because I was done with that. I could see what it was doing to us. I'll never forget a time we all used to go over a field, and that was our place to glue snip. And we'd sit in the bush all day long, just on this glue and just out of our faces. And I was at court one day, and I went back and knocked on a friend's door, and I said, "Is Kevin in?" And his mum said, "No, he's out somewhere." And someone said, "Oh, he's over the field." So I went over the field, and there was a few of my mates sitting over there like zombies, drooling just like that because they were just glued off of their face. And that was it. I started looking at them going, "Oh, I really don't like this." And that I started turning my life around. But changing that environment was the main thing because I know that I would have gone back to that sort of thing otherwise. So it's really a case of changing the environment first, truly. So when I did eventually, and like I say, I didn't change it completely. If anyone ever gets a chance to read my book, they'll read so much more of
Yeah.
what I'm telling you on here. But it's called The Rogue Hypnotist for a reason because I truly was a rogue. And then I became a hypnotist and became quite a well known hypnotist and a very, very honest hypnotist. In 22 years of being a hypnotist, I've I've got such a good name, and I've never crossed the line. I've not got a blemish against my name after 22 years as a hypnotist. So I really did change my life completely. I've changed the person, I changed my life, I changed the person. Um, a lot of my friends, many people off the council estate that we grew up on, or council estates, some of them were done very well, but many of them haven't done much more with their lives. Sometimes it takes that short, sharp shock to say to you, listen, you either fucking change yourself or you're going to be in out of prison. And in fact, you may even die of, the wrong thing. So, when you see sort of 9 friends that have died from drugs, you just go, man, they didn't change anything. They some of them didn't have any dreams, they had no aspirations. I always did. I always knew that I didn't belong there. And it wasn't that I didn't belong with those people on the council estate, that I find them some of the most loveliest people. The camaraderie was amazing. And I truly mean that. The camaraderie on a council estate is fantastic. Um, that's what I loved about it. And, then your life changes for the better or for the worse. Well, mine changed for the better. I then became a hypnotist. I opened other businesses before that. And I then became a hypnotist later on in life after seeing a guy called Paul McKenna. You would know Paul McKenna.
Yeah. Paul
And
McKenna.
yeah,
Yeah.
amazing. He was one of my heroes. I saw him 35, 37 years ago. He was performing a show down in Dartford. And I just saw this show and I went, there's no way that's real. He was making these people do things. And I thought, there's absolutely no way that's real. And sure enough, as I started learning more and more about it, I then realized that it was real. And then I end up a stage hypnotist, then I end up a hypnotherapist. And that it's changed my life, truly. It really has. I've traveled the globe. I perform shows, I make people laugh, and I love seeing people laugh. I've helped people in therapy that have been told they'll never change their lives,
Yeah.
they won't be able to do things, and I'm sure you have as well.
Yeah.
And the mind is phenomenal. And when you realize what it can do for you and others, it's the best job in the world, the best profession in the world. It truly is. So, and then, like I say, I've changed my life. It truly has. And I never, when I look back now, I don't look back and regret. I regret some things. I'm not going to sit here. I used to say to people that I don't regret anything I've done. That's fucking lies because I do regret some of the things I've done. And I never hurt anybody. I don't like confrontation. Um, I really don't. It's not the sort of thing. I don't go out looking for trouble. And, so to me, it wasn't anything. I didn't hurt anybody. I mean, I defended myself sometimes, but I didn't hurt anybody in that sense. But just some of the things I did, even when I used to steal cars, this is going to sound really bizarre. And some people will go, yeah, but you still fucking stole a car. I used to steal them, but I used to steal them to take me home. and I would steal them, take me home, and I'd leave it on the side of the road in full view of the traffic so that the police would find it easy. And some people will say, yeah, well, you still fucking stole it. Yeah, I did. And like I say, I do regret some of that stuff. I regret some of the other things that I did as well, but I never did anything to hurt anybody. I will say that. So that's a good thing. In my eyes and my heart, that's a good thing.
So, and when you talk about looking back, it doesn't sound as triggering for you. Now, for a lot of people, and I know when my clients, people look back and it triggers.
Yeah.
So why does it not trigger you? What's different about Mark? What work have you had to do so that your past doesn't trigger you and it's empowered you? What work have you had to do there, Mark?
Oh, Cuddy, I've worked on myself so much. Again, hypnosis, meditation, and you and I had this discussion earlier. Meditation is as good as hypnosis. And I know some hypnotists are going to go, oh, you wanker. No, it's not. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It is. It really is. Meditation's amazing. I do self-hypnosis every day for 15 minutes minimum and have been doing it for years and years and years. I say to my clients, use the recording every single day, which is like we discussed earlier. It's like meditation, but with suggestions and a positive end result.
Yeah.
So it's, that's what I believe. I believe the same as you. Meditation's amazing. Yeah. And it can change people's lives because it changes this. It really does. It changes this, and this obviously controls this. Yes. Yeah. And I'm pointing to the body, by the way, the whole body, not just one thing. Yeah. So it controls the body. And yeah, I totally agree with you, mate. It really is. Meditation is amazing. And hypnosis, to me, I always say to my clients, when they see me do a stage show and they see the people, I've had 100 on one of the carnival ships. I had 102 people on stage, and I ended up with 89 that were hypnotized doing funny things. So people think that that's what you do in a session.
Yeah.
And I always say to them, it's not. In a session, I do a progressive relaxation, like a meditation.
Absolutely.
Progressive relaxation, because I believe otherwise it's fast in, fast out.
Yeah.
That's what I believe. So I don't do a stage type induction in a therapy room.
Yeah.
Never. Unless somebody's been hypnotized by me on stage before, and then obviously they come to me for sessions, then I'll do a quick induction, a snap induction. They're out like a light because they're so used to that command or suggestion of sleeping. So that's the only time that I will actually use a fast induction is if they've been on stage with me before. Otherwise, I use a nice progressive relaxation therapy. And that is, like we said, that's similar to meditation so much.
We have to calm the monkey mind, especially, and from what we did talk about this before. I don't do hypnotherapy because I know meditation works just as well.
Yeah,
and I know that, and I've spoken to some other, and I love the fact that you said, you know what, because you've got a good point. Because I've spoken to other hypnotherapists. No, it's not the same. It's completely different. And I'm like, bullshit. It's absolute bullshit. You can do the exact same thing with meditation. And I when I was doing the research and things, and a lot of people say, oh, I can't get hypnotized because, and you'll remember what my first business was, which was monkey mind relaxation when I used to do the talks on the ship. You have to calm the monkey mind, which is the emotions and the subconscious, before we even get to being able to put in. So I love the fact that you do a slow induction to be able to calm the monkey mind, allow them to be able to sit calm and collected. That's brilliant. That's absolutely fantastic. Thank you very much for sharing that, Mark. So,
my pleasure.
I have a question, and I've got 75,000 questions, so this is going to be a great podcast. What did you do in Pakistan, and what did they wait for you for? I'm curious to find out what that was.
It was absolutely amazing because I always knew that I wasn't meant to be in the environment I was in. We used to, but there used to be times at home, Cuddy, when we couldn't afford clothes or anything. Mum, sometimes we'd have fish fingers and bread in the freezer, and that'd be it. We really, our spaghetti bolognese was spaghetti with tomato sauce on top sometimes. It was, that we're talking pretty rough upbringing sometimes. And, there were weeks when we used to buy clothes weekly. Mum had a guy that came round weekly, and she would pay him £1 every week for our clothes. So there'd be times when we would have to hide because she never had £1. And, so he would knock on the door, or the gas meter man would knock on the door. Well, we'd already robbed the gas meter, so we couldn't let the gas man in. years ago, the gas meters had money in, didn't they? So we'd already robbed that. We took the money out to buy things because we didn't have the money for food or something, or petrol in mum's car that had no brakes and no fucking hardly anything, ball tires, you name it. And so, it was a really rough upbringing. And so to me, I just looked at things. I didn't want to be like that.
Yeah.
I didn't want my life to be like that. I certainly didn't want my children's lives to be like that. So I knew the only person to change it was me. We didn't have the sort of people around us that could
How
say,
did you
right,
know that, though? For anyone listening, how did you
yeah,
know you were going to be the only one? Because you're taking yourself out from you're elevating the consciousness scale. We're going out of blame
yeah,
mode
yeah,
into take accountability, which is not easy
yeah,
for people to do.
no,
How did you know, or what point was it? Look, there's only me that can do this, because a lot of people still don't grasp that change was always going to come from the determination of one, not that the hundred around. So
yeah,
what was that? I still want to know what you did in Pakistan. All
yeah.
right,
Okay,
you
I
moved
will tell
away
you in
from
a
telling me
second.
what
Yeah,
Pakistan
no,
was.
I will tell you that. Don't
I
worry.
want to know
Yeah.
what you did in Pakistan, but what was it that made you realize it was you that had to do the change?
Okay. Well, the Pakistan thing is actually part of this, and
Yeah,
that was the change in mindset. So I knew that I had to change my mindset. So to change my mindset, I had to just read anything and everything I could.
yeah.
And it was motivational quotes that I would see just anywhere. It might be in a newspaper, might have been in a magazine, it might have been, and these weren't newspapers and magazines that I bought because we couldn't afford them. So it would be, one of my sister's boyfriends went to the local library and he stole these big books, motivational books for me. And I paid him some money to, and it's things like that. And I know that's how I was though. And when you've got no other way of doing something, that's how I was. So I bought them off him and I'd sit and read them. And I would sit and read anything and everything I could motivational because I knew that if I could change this even a bit, I knew that I wasn't meant to be in that council estate environment all my life. I
Yeah.
know I wasn't. And that was just my own thoughts. So I knew I wasn't meant to be there. And then that was it. So I started changing my mindset. And then I saw this job in a paper one day, and it said, we're looking for salespeople to work in Pakistan, UAE, which is United Arab Emirates,
Yeah.
Bahrain, Qatar, and Dubai. And this was when I was 18.
Yeah.
So I just went, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to go for this. I don't know why, but I'm going to go for it. You remember I was still in the stealing cars and still in the stealing anything. And I was just a little arsehole. I'd been in every gang I was in. I was in skinhead gangs. I was in mod gangs. I was in little fuckers gangs. It was, just any gang, just for that camaraderie and that
Looking
that
for the,
that
yeah,
brotherhood.
absolutely.
Yeah. So I just knew that I had to change something. So I thought, I'm going to go for this job. And sure enough, I went to this hotel in London where they had this, like I say, 300 or 400 people. I couldn't tell you exactly how many, but there was hundreds. And they were all so much older than me. I was the youngest one without a doubt. And they're all sitting there listening to these people doing this big spiel at the front. And then these people were telling us about these, where we were going, Pakistan, UAE, and how fantastic and glamorous it was. And I was sitting there loving it. I loved it. But I just, you'd never get that chance if you didn't do it yourself. And I
Yeah.
thought, I've got to do this. I've got to. And when they gave us, they said, right, you've all got a piece of paper on your seat or under your seat, and there's a pencil. Write down why we should choose you to take to Pakistan. We're only choosing 4 people, 2 guys and 2 girls. And I had nothing. I had nothing to say. All these others were writing everything down. You could see them writing things down. I'm a salesman of 25 years. I this, and I had nothing. And if I had put, I've just come out of detention center, I've been at a detention center for a few weeks, and I grew up in a one-parent family and stolen everything that have been on drugs. They're going to go, what the fuck? So I just thought, all right, what can I write? And I just wrote, fuck, I thought I've got nothing to lose. And I just wrote, I can do it. Just give me a chance. That was
Oh,
my words. I promise you. And they took it. I
wow.
was that person they changed. That was all that was my only words. I started believing that I wasn't meant to be in the environment I was in. But I couldn't, there was nobody around me in that environment that I could rely on to come with me and take us out of that environment and climb out of it. So I just I wrote that, and that was it. They chose me out of all those people.
It's and what it is, what I'm hearing, and I'm sure you'll agree to this, is you started believing you weren't supposed to be in that environment, which was the negative environment, which was the trauma, which was the acting out and the negative behaviors.
Yeah.
You then realize this is the place, and that's a very heavy mindset shift because most people get stuck in the old thinking this is what I'm used to,
Yeah.
and you've gone completely other go, no, that's just not for me. That's not for me anymore. This is for wow. And a lot
Yeah.
of people don't do that, Mark.
No, absolutely not. No. And
They become accustomed to the mundane, the trauma, and then that belief system comes in is this is what I'm supposed to have. I'm not good enough to have other things. I'm not. Wow, Mark, that's amazing.
yeah,
So it was sales in Pakistan.
in Pakistan, like, I love Pakistan. They're the
You're
most.
selling.
It was one of my favorite places in the world. And back then, we're talking many years ago. But even
What are you
then, it was
selling?
just fantastic. We were selling you're not going to believe it, was a cleaning chemical. And nowadays you can buy it anywhere. And we used to have to walk into these places and we'd have to learn. I mean, I've got my brother-in-law is a Muslim, and my best friend in the UK is a Muslim. And so I speak a tiny sway Arabic. And so we'd walk in and we had to say, salam alaikum, kifal alhamdulillah, and that'd get their attention because you've got this white man walking in saying this, and then you just spray this spray on something that was filthy, and then you start cleaning it, and that was it. They would
I
see
mean, it's
this thing
literally
clean.
it is the old adage of buy this cloth. These cloths are different. Wow.
Yeah, it was
So what's
amazing.
the
It was
product now? What is the
the
product now?
shower. It was, do you know what? It was a chemical they made that was, I reckon it was probably like something like Window Clean or something like that they made themselves though. And it just, you spray it on things, but you can buy, Window Clean would have done the same thing. Honestly, Window Clean would have done the same, but it was just a selling that they sell. However, I will tell you, it wasn't as good as what they made out in the sales, obviously, sales pitch. So what you do, you work on commission.
Yeah.
And when you worked on commission, all your food and everything had to come out of the commission. Now, me being 18, I was petrified of selling things to anybody. I had a big mouth because it's what it got me out of trouble a lot of times when I was younger, but it also got me in trouble a lot of
Yeah.
times. So my mouth was okay, but my salesmanship was terrible because I had no training, no nothing. And in fact, I'll give you an example of how bad it was. I actually went for a job when I was about 17, and they stuck me outside a Woolworth store, this company, with a headset microphone and gold plate your jewelry. And they said, right, what you've got to do is draw the crowd in. So start selling the jewelry. I started selling, I didn't. I started saying this, I was petrified of this microphone. And I just took it off, threw it down, and fucked off. I never went back there. And they went,
To
and
be
I just walked
fair,
off.
for a young man who has had the ability to go and blow up and be a fire starter, which
Yeah.
would take a hell of a lot more confidence and bravado to do that. And I know you were acting out for that attention, but then to just a lot of people would say, well, how is it you can go and blow up petrol stations, cars, steal cars, but yet standing up in front of three people, a crowd, and talking, selling jewelry? Why
Yeah.
would that be so
It was
horrifying?
petrifying. It was petrifying, mate. It was petrifying. I was shitting myself. And so I took the headset off and I went, and that was it. So when I went to Pakistan, because I was trying to turn my life around,
Yeah.
even in between that time. So that was a job that I was offered, and it didn't work out. It was terrible. I mean, I from the age of 11, I started getting tattoos. I've had them all cut out now and removed, and tattoos all up my arm, homemade tattoos. I was that bad, as a kid. People have no idea when they read my book. Nobody had any idea what I'd been through as a kid and teenage years because they never saw me as that person. That's how much I'd changed. So even as that salesperson, I had no idea. So I had to learn all this in Pakistan. And I learned from a really nice guy called Paul. He was a lot older than me, and he was just this. He was from up north in the UK, and he was just a really good guy, and he taught me a lot. But I even fucked that up out there. I stole somebody's jewelry who was on the team, and that's what I say. When you change things,
You go back to
you
yeah,
go back sometimes. You go back to that comfort zone
yeah,
sometimes. It's like a smoker
yeah,
that goes back to that comfort zone of smoking.
yeah.
Because they haven't reached that success yet, or that pinnacle where it's okay now. So, if it's hard work to get to that pinnacle where it's okay, or you've turned your life around, or you've stopped smoking completely, until you're there, you'll sometimes keep going back to that place that's comfortable. And because it's
Just to
so
become
familiar,
aware of that. Yes.
and you've just got to keep pushing through until you do reach that pinnacle, or that not happy non-smoker stage, or my life has definitely turned around now. Until then, you will slip back.
Yeah.
And that's what I was doing every now and again. And I actually stole from one of the guys, and like I say, there's some things I regret. That was one of them, I must say. I stole from one of the guys there that was a really successful person, and we were in UAE at the time, United Arab Emirates,
Oh,
and
not a
over
lot to
there
do.
they chop your fucking hands off.
Yeah, they do.
So, yeah, so the guy that took us out there, that sponsored the sales team, he said to me, "You know what? Here," he said, "we would chop your hands off normally." He said, "But I'm going to give you the chance because I've heard apart from this, you're a really nice guy. They all loved you on the team, and the owners of the company really liked you. But we can't have this." So they sent me back to the UK, and that was it. So there was so many things, and it took me a while to turn around, and I did it, and I got better and better and better. And like I say, I'm probably one of the most honest people you'll ever meet, and have been for many, many, many years now. Um,
So you're
and
actually originally from the UK then?
I am, yeah, I'm from South London, Southeast London, a place called Kidbrooke near Lewisham.
Right, because I know you
Yeah.
from Australia, obviously.
Yes,
So
yes,
you were
yeah. I
actually
moved to
born in a
Australia.
caravan in South London.
Yes, yeah. Well, I
Ah,
was born.
right.
Yeah, I was.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's There's my story. It goes back a long. We grew up council estates. Um, even as a kid, Cuddy, I was in my teenage years. I was a real hypochondriac because I just wanted
Maria,
that
yeah.
attention from the
Irons,
doctor.
yeah, yeah.
And even the doctor, I just wanted that attention from somebody. And that's what you do. You become a hypochondriac, or you take drugs, or you join a gang, or you just want that attention. And that's because
Love.
the
It's
attention
that
you've
lack
had.
of love in
Love,
life. People don't
absolutely,
understand that.
absolutely.
I'm a lot. I talk a lot with my clients and things like that, and they're like, why do I keep doing this? And I'm like, well, we need to change the questions. We don't ask why. It's like, what can we do to move forward? But
Yes,
it's what with the thousands of clients that I've worked with, it will genuinely always come down to love,
love,
lack of love,
absolutely. Yeah,
and the perception of what love is, and it just absolutely plays havoc
it's
with
huge.
our mindset, our mental health, our traumas will genuinely be love based.
Yes, totally agree with you. Yeah, there you go. And you've just said it. You see, as growing up in a one-parent family
Yeah,
with domestic violence and everything, the love just wasn't there.
yeah,
Mum did her best to love us, and she's a wonderful mum. I adore her. She's a strong lady. But even to this day, she's in her 80s. She
yeah.
still sleeps with a bread knife under a pillow, and
Mhm.
that's because of all the domestic. After all those years,
Yeah.
somebody actually said to me recently, "Oh, I remember. What takes you back to your mum? What good memories, or what memories do you have of when you were a child with mum?" And I sat there, and they were saying things like, "Mum used to sit me on her knee, and we used to hug, and she'd play music or sing." Mine was, I just used to think of mum. We'd go to school in the morning, and mum would still be in bed. I mean, it would have been depression as well, a lot of depression.
Cool.
And she would still be in bed, knife under a pillow, and we'd give her a kiss on the head and just say goodbye as we walked to school on our own. And we used to go to school, nothing pressed. I've got this real thing about people go, fucking hell, you're a bit too much. I've got this real thing about pressing clothes, like clothes.
Yeah.
I cannot stand going out of the house with creased up clothes.
Yeah.
And there's so many more things to my story. But when you say adversities, these adversities you can push through. You can push through. I've got a thing. I'll start a podcast later on, and it's called "Fuck Adversities."
Yeah.
The reason is because we can push through, but you've got to know how to. You've got to see maybe sometimes somebody like me or Cuddy, to actually help push you through those adversities.
Yeah.
This might sound a bit rough, and some people will go, "Oh, fucking hell, that's a bit wrong." But this is how I look at it, because I've been through so many adversities. I can relate to many of my clients.
Yeah.
Truly, I've
Yeah.
been a smoker. I've been on drugs. I've been 16 kilos heavier. I grew up with domestic violence. I've grew up with sexual abuse, mental abuse, physical abuse. So I can relate to nearly everything my clients have been through.
Yeah.
And so I'm somebody that I have sympathy with my clients. I have empathy.
Yeah.
However, that empathy will stop at a certain place if I say to them, you need to do this, this, this until I see you next.
Yeah.
And if they come back and I say to them, okay, did you listen to the recording? Did you read the book?
Yeah.
No, I didn't have time. Okay, well, okay. And I'm still having problems. And the problem, and you go, no, bollocks.
Yeah.
Sorry, excuse the French, but
no, it's clear.
Yeah,
it is clear.
And that's because I know what it's like to push through adversities.
Yes.
You've got to push through. It's not an easy life. Nothing in life is easy. If you've got an easy life, then good for you. But I promise you, not everybody's life is easy. And I know what it takes to push through.
Yeah.
So you've got to keep pushing through, push through the adversities. There's a great saying, Cuddy, you've probably heard it. And it says, some people take a bad 5 minutes and they milk it. And you get people milking that bad 5 minutes from the past, and they'll milk it for a month, 2 months, years, their whole life, until they see somebody like you or I to help them get rid of it.
Right? It's change the story, change your life.
There you go. There you go. Change the story, change your life. Well, my story, I suppose, like you say, my story was my environment. I knew if I didn't change my environment, my story would be the same vicious story.
Yes.
And that's what did it. And that's the same as my sister. My sister got put in prison, like I say, for murder.
Yeah.
And she's out now and she's doing fantastically. She's got the most incredible, wonderful boyfriend. He's a great guy, very different guy to the one she used to be with when it was drugs, alcohol, anything and everything. And so very, very different. And her life has turned around completely as well. Yeah. So you can change it. You can turn your life around, but it does take some effort. And if you can't be bothered with the effort, you're not going to change your life. I can promise you.
Yeah. That's very honest. That's very fair. And it's funny because when I'm working with clients, and I actually, strangely enough, I started working with kids. And a lot of parents think, can you work with kids? I'm like, absolutely not a problem, but you need to, there's some things, and this is what I always do in my conversations with the clients, is like, first of all, if they resonate with me, it'll work. I can tell you now, if they don't mind my accent, they don't mind my glasses and my hair, and I says, to be honest, my language can be quite, not forceful, but quite abrasive sometimes. Because you do have empathy at a certain point, but empathy will keep you stuck. It's like, at what point are you going to start? And I've done, to be fair, I know, I thought that was extremely clear, and I just started working with an amazing client. And it, again, similar story to you about childhood and things like that. And I said, right, at what point are we going to relinquish that and create a new story? And it's like, what do you mean? It's like, well, that's the old story. We need to create the new story. Otherwise, we're going to stay. And the changes that you get in clients, and a lot of people don't, in 45 minutes to an hour, we can change and reframe and reformat stories into new champion stories. And it does mean going back to the pain point. And you talking about it now clearly does. You go into the pain points. You've worked on it, and that's how we get people moving forward. But you're absolutely right about having sympathy and empathy. But to what point are you going to be like, all right, we can't do it for you. You have to go and do these things with these new tools. So I think that was a really powerful part. Now, I have a question, because I think words and meanings of words are really, really important. And I think I've got a different meaning to your rogue hypnotist. So how do you mean rogue then? Because when I think of the word rogue, I think of a boundary pusher or a change maker or that kind of,
Yeah. Okay.
I'm a
Okay.
rogue. But it
Sure.
kind of sounds like you don't use that word as the rogue. You mean the rogue as in the
I
cheeky,
do.
chappy, steely.
I do. I do. Yeah, you're right. And I'd use it in many different ways
Yeah, yeah,
because
yeah,
I was a complete street rogue
yeah,
and a total rogue when I was younger. However, later on in life, I'm rogue. I'll give you an example of rogue. So to me, in the hypnosis industry, for
yeah.
instance, I was really good friends with some people called Martin St. James and Ron Rico. They were two huge stage hypnotists in their time and absolutely wonderful. Became very good friends with them before they passed. And they, Martin St. James was accepted into the therapy founding fathers association or something. So when I applied for it, they said, no, you're a stage hypnotist. We don't accept that. And I said, but I've been a therapist for years as well.
Yeah.
I said, I do as much therapy as I do stage, if not more. And they went, no, no, we won't accept you in there. So I just went rogue and went off and did my own thing. My hypnotherapy course was 3 days. I did 3 days training, and people go, 3 days, is that it? So are you monitored or no? You're not. That's one of the problems with hypnosis. You're not. There's no governing body. So that is a problem in a way. I don't really like that too much, but mine was 3 days as well. And it's not about how much training you did or how long the training was. It's the effort you put into it after the training. So you could do 1 day's training. I could teach you hypnosis just like you could teach me
Yeah.
meditation in half an hour.
Correct.
However, it's not about that. It's about what you put into it after that.
Yeah.
And that's when I started going rogue. I just started going against anybody that told me that I couldn't join this association.
Yeah.
I couldn't join that brotherhood. I couldn't join this, like in the hypnosis world.
Yeah.
And I just went, you know what? Fuck you all. I'll do it myself then.
Yeah.
And I did. And I went off and did it. And that's how I look at rogue as well. I
Perfect.
I
Yeah. So
went
that
rogue
is
again.
the change maker. Yeah. So,
Yes.
and it's, I think we're going into a good part of the conversation as well, which is governing bodies and experts. And I actually, it is a bugbear, and I'm not. It's just an opinion, especially when it comes to the podcast. It is just an opinion, but I find. And the more and more I go into understanding the mind and the different techniques that we can use, whether it's EMDR, Havening. It's funny because you mentioned Paul McKenna, so I started learning Havening because of saw something about
Yeah,
Paul McKenna. I'm
brilliant.
like, right, I'll
Yeah,
look at
yeah.
them.
Excellent.
And Havening's powerful, and some of the things that I've
It
done, and
is.
it's all because of touch, because of
It
touch,
is.
love, and the
Yes.
chemicals that we create, and it
Yeah.
desensitizes and can re-change the chemicals. So I do a lot of Havening with clients now, but it's funny how you say, there isn't a governing body for things, but do you think that the regulations and the governing bodies is what stops people moving forward? Because most of my clients, and I'm sure yours will be the same, I generally find I'm coaching the clients I get are the ones that have been, the counseling's not worked, therapy's not worked, and they're sat walking around feeling shit. So I'm broken, I can't get fixed.
Yeah.
And they come along to people like ourselves, and like with 1, 2, 3 sessions, we're like, oh shit, I've got my life back in. Absolutely, you're right. So it's a fine line because it's if people don't get to deal with the trauma in the first place, but then you ask the question, was it the therapist that wasn't good enough, that has gone through their training, they have strict protocols to follow, or was it the fact there was a lack of resonance? And then when they come to
Yeah.
someone like us, they probably resonated, because I think the highly successful outcomes we get is when there's a resonance. So what's your thoughts on that? Because I think resonance is probably more powerful than structure.
Totally. Yeah, I totally agree with that. And you've really just said it, mate. I totally agree. If I always say to people, look, somebody might say, look, I've got my brother who wants to come and see you. You fixed me, and I know that he can. I always say, look, get him to call me first,
Yeah,
because unless we build, he might not like me. He might get my voice on the phone and go, I just
absolutely.
like
Go,
the sound
what
of
a
his
wanker.
voice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. Thanks, mate. Yeah, I wasn't going to say
It is, it's what we get.
that. Yeah, that's right. It's exactly right. And he might say, what a wanker. I don't want to go to him.
Absolutely, because they're not ready for the
So
change.
that's it. That rapport is massive. So unless we've got that rapport,
Yeah.
then we're not going to be able to fix them. Full stop. And I've actually had people come to me from other hypnotists, other psychologists, and they just didn't have the rapport. And look, I after 22 years, out of all the hundreds of clients that I've seen, there's probably some that have been to me that have maybe gone somewhere else.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
What I did with Cuddy didn't work. Then they go and see someone else, and boom, it works. Yep,
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah,
So it's it's never. It's like on a stage show, Cuddy. I've done shows in front of 10,000 people.
yeah,
I've done shows on TV. I've done shows on radio. Unless you've got that rapport with the people that come on the stage, they're not going to go under. It's not a magic stick. It's not some sort of magic that you've got in here and mind control.
no,
As you know, it's a numbers game. And number one, it's a numbers game with
yeah,
stage hypnosis. It's that rapport that you've got with them, because if you don't have that rapport, they're not going to respond to you
yeah,
automatically, because they'll bring themselves out. Their conscious mind will kick in and they'll
yeah,
bring themselves out because they didn't like you.
yeah.
So that's massive, and the governing bodies, going back to that, then I suppose it would restrict some sort of. I don't know if it would restrict that sort of stuff, but I do feel that the governing bodies. Have you ever been on the internet and typed in, like YouTube, for instance, hypnosis gone wrong?
No, because I don't want to.
Okay.
And that's a really good question, because then you could say, well, let's type havening gone wrong. Then we could start. Then we start
Yes.
to look towards the
Yes.
negatives, and we're looking
That's
for.
it.
We're creating more of a fear and a scarcity of why these things shouldn't work, and you should go and see a psychologist. I mean, the last two clients I got, and this is a really powerful part, is the last two. One of them was specifically told, "Don't go to a coach. Do not go to a coach." How is
Wow.
it they can say we can cure your anxiety, which I've never said I can cure anxiety, by the way.
Yeah.
You can cure anxiety and we can get rid of all your things. You've probably been let down by psychologists and therapists and all those kind of
Yeah.
things. Then they come to us for one session. They walk away after 45 minutes. They're like, why has nobody ever asked me that question? Or because
Yeah.
there are a lot of people scared to deal with the trauma, but we have to deal with the trauma to get you to look for the solutions. Because talking about the
Absolutely.
problems keeps you stuck in the problem, right? We know that.
Yes.
There's no help or benefit of looking at the problems without looking for the solutions for the problems. It's the solutions that'll get moving forward. I'm a solution-focused mind management coach. That's genuinely the best way to explain what we do. And I use havening, EMDR, brain spotting, and somatic healing and NLP. That's genuine and cognitive behavioral therapy. Because I think CBT and NLP are very close, to be fair. However, there is always that part. You're absolutely right with everything that's gone wrong, but there's always going to be. Do you not think that these people have to put in the what's gone wrong when hypnotist's gone wrong and hypnotherapy's gone wrong? I remember seeing the one of the magician gone wrong where he did the hand stabbing with that would put you off being a magician for the rest of your life, because I remember that the spike went through the hand. But do you not think when you start looking for that, you're feeding that nothing's going to work, or you have to come and see me?
Okay. I'll tell you the reason I say that is because so many people, and I'm going to give you a couple of examples, and you might edit it out. It's up to
it's fine. This goes. This is as it is.
Okay. So I look at it and go, okay, if you do type it in, you'll see people have learned it off of YouTube. They'll go and learn some things off of YouTube. They won't bring safety into it or anything. In my training courses, I've got online stage hypnosis training courses.
Yeah.
Safety is the number one thing that I put in there. It's number one, full stop. And these people that have learned it off of YouTube, they've got no safety. They know nothing about it. All they do is, maybe a hand clasp or, a book and bucket. They do all this testing, then they do an induction, and these people are out and they don't know what to do with them. So they jump up and down, and they might jump up and down and they'll smack their head on the ceiling or something. So there's no safety or anything. That's the only reason I say that. It's not, the governing bodies aren't for that reason. I personally don't believe that governing bodies do a lot, apart from, a lot of the time just tell you what to do. They're like most of the time they're like a load of old farts sitting around a table at an old boys club.
Yeah.
And hence the ones that said that I couldn't go into this this thing at the time. And that's what I believe. So I do agree with you. We don't necessarily need them. However, there's got to be some sort of restrictions on what is taught to people. I had a guy phone me once, and he messaged me, And he said, I desperately need your help. So I said, what's wrong? What's the problem? I'd never seen this guy, never heard of him. He just messaged me through Facebook. And he said, I've been hypnotizing somebody online in Canada. He was in
I
Australia. She
get the
was in
online
Canada.
reservation because if they don't come out of the yes, I get the yeah.
Yeah. So can you see? So he said, I've been playing games with her online for about a year, and today we tried something different. And what I did, I took her back to her childhood, to an event, and she broke down in tears and started screaming and shouting, and then the Zoom cut off. He said, and I tried to phone her and tried to. He said, and I said, hang on a second. I said, where did you learn hypnosis? On YouTube. I went, you fucking idiot. I said, no. I said, now you need to get hold of her however you can, because she needs professional help now. You've opened a can of worms.
Yeah.
This childhood trauma. You've opened a can of worms with this girl. You don't know what she's doing now, where she is, and you've played with her online because you learned it on YouTube. That's why I'm saying that's the only reason I believe some sort of governing thing somewhere. When I used to train people, I used to say, right, a few things. Do you have a criminal record? And because if they did for the wrong thing, I wouldn't train them, because I know that hypnosis can be so powerful in the wrong hands.
Yeah.
And I just didn't. And like I say, 22 years, and I've not got a blemish against my name. That's how so careful I am with it.
So, because you had a criminal record, I find that really fascinating, Mark, to be fair.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I say, it was if somebody came there and they had raped somebody, if somebody had came there and they wanted to train and they were a child molester, if somebody had came, they had done totally the wrong thing. That's what I'm talking about.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So if somebody came to me and they got a criminal record because they were, in a gang and they did the wrong things, but they've turned that, no problem at all. If they got done for embellishment at a company, and they stole $2 million or pounds from the company, and this, is it the wrong thing? Yes, it's the wrong thing, but that's okay to me. That was okay. There's certain things that I would, totally. I know what it can do in the wrong hands.
Yeah.
And people said to me, yeah, but it's like going to the local hardware store and buying a hammer. So one person will walk out the hardware store and they'll bang a nail in the wall to hang a picture. Another person will walk out the hardware store with a hammer and smack somebody in the head with it.
Yeah.
So you're not going to know what they're going to do with it when you walk out.
So is it the person or the hammer?
Yeah, well, it's the person. It's the person. And that's what I'm saying. So in the wrong hands, that's why I say hypnosis gone wrong, because in the wrong hands, it can be so destructive.
Yeah.
And you've just heard a prime example, the guy that learned it on YouTube and then fucking started messing around with it online with this girl in Canada. And this poor girl was now just freaking out, crying, screaming, and the line's gone dead. So she's nobody. I said to him, basically, piss off and don't ever contact me again if you can't get hold of her. I said, if you do, put her on to me, but if you don't, piss off and never contact me again. I get really frustrated with things like that, and some people go, oh, you're a bit unfit. No, I'm not, and I really don't mind what people think, because I know what it can do. I know in the wrong hands it's so powerful, but in the wrong way. But I know in the right hands it's powerful in the right way, and you and I know that because we're in that field.
Now, I'm going to give you the reason I never got into hypnotherapy, because it touches exactly on this. I went and got one of the original hypnotherapy books from Eric Sonian.
Yeah,
I got the book and I thought, right, I'm doing meditation, but let's the opening chapter, and I've spoken to hypnotists about this. And went, oh, I've never read that book. That can't be true. And I'm like, I can't remember the name of the book, but it was The Hypnosis by Eric Sonian, or one of the forefathers of hypnotherapy. And the opening chapter, or the second chapter, was understanding the power of transference. And if you are not in a place of clarity, you can transfer what's going on in your life over through hypnosis to a person.
Yes.
And you're the only person to say yes, Mark, by the way. And I've spoken about that. I was like, it just put me off, because I'm like, well, no, if I'm in a bad headspace, I know that when I'm coaching, there's a difference, and I can clarify and clear that, and I don't project. But through hypnosis, I was like, nah, I'm staying away from
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And so many hypnotists, no, I don't know what, but that, God, even know there's no such thing as transference. I'm like, there is.
There
There
is.
absolutely is
There
a
is.
transference.
But you know what, Cuddy? I'd see. I look at that, and we could. It's like if we walk into a store. I walked into a store today. I had to pick something up at a Bunnings, which is a hardware store. And I walked in, and the girl
The
behind the
hammer.
counter, yeah, that's right, to get a hammer, yeah. So, and this girl behind the counter was just a moody little fuck, honestly. And I'm honestly, I'm like you. I'm one of the positive. I'm a real positive person, and I love people. I really, if I can smile at somebody and make their day, I'm going to smile at them, and make their day. And I try and say something positive. So I walked in and said, "Happy New Year to you," and she went, and then I said, "Okay, there's the credit card." Well, it was a friend's card that I had to use because then I needed the number, the PIN. So I said, "I'm really sorry. I'm going to have to phone them to get the number." And she went, "Oh, there's people behind you." I said, "I can't help that." So that transference could have easily transferred to me.
Yeah.
Like her mood could have transferred to me.
Yep.
And I didn't allow it. I mean, I put barriers up to things like that every time I see somebody in my therapy room. I have to.
Yeah, we
Because
have to.
years ago when I first started, that transference from them was coming to me.
Yes.
So the
Yes.
negativity from them was coming to me. And, there'd be days when I'd sort of finish the day after a few clients and go, fuck, I feel so down in the dumps or
Brains.
terrible.
Yep.
And it's true, that transference was there. But now I put a barrier up, I block it. And so the positivity stays with me, honestly, so much of the day. If I get a down, I don't get a down day. I get a down few minutes. If I feel down about anything, it might be a few minutes, and I pull myself out. And that's how I do things. But otherwise, it does transfer to other people, and theirs transfers to you if you're not
Yeah.
careful.
Yeah.
So I do believe in transference. And
yeah, so it was the transference of thoughts, or even a subliminal thought when you're having a think. When you're having a think and you're doing hypnosis, it can pass over and cross over.
yeah,
And it was like you said, safety. It was like the safety part of the hypnosis book. And I thought, you know what, that's not for me. Because of
no,
that. And I'm so glad you said, yeah, you agreed to the transference of thoughts and things like that. I think the mind's a wonderful thing. I genuinely do. And I think a lot of our clients, and I think the message always, your mind is always, coming from NLP, everything's got a positive intention. Your brain's got a negative bias, so it has to remember the bad stuff, but it's a positive intention. So we have to help people understand the positive intention in life. And the mind is always trying to protect us. It's always trying to protect us, which is why it will make us avoid and push away and sabotage, because we want to stay away from those feelings. And I think, if anything from this story, Mark, I know we're coming up to about an hour, is from glue sniffing to looking for the camaraderie to blowing up car parks and all those kind of things, especially glue. It's funny that you talked about, well, it's not funny that you talked about glue, but I never actually glue sniffed as a kid growing up, because I think we're probably around, but I remember glue sniffing was a big thing in the probably early 80s. I never sniffed glue because I think I maybe had one sniff and I was like, oh my God, that's minging. It give me an headache. I'm like, nah. But I remember a lot of my friends back at school and all those kind of things got stuck onto then heroin and all those kind of things. And I never went that route. But I suppose that comes down to values, doesn't it? I suppose that's that. And I know as a child, I didn't understand values and things like that. And as we do now moving forward. But now you've gone through what you've gone through, and wrap up, you still have bad shit happen in your life. We talked about the Facebook hacking and all those kind of things. So how do you, let's talk about the conversation. When something happens and goes wrong, what's Mark's first response?
I do initially, I'll go, for fuck's sake. A prime example, I took my little girls to the drive-in movie last night. They've on the first, sorry, they've been waiting for Paddington Bear in Peru to come out for ages. Okay, so, and it was out on the first, and I said, right, we'll go to the drive-in and we'll sit and watch it. So normally we go into a drive-in space where they've got 3 or 4 different fields. One of them, and this is just a silly example, but it's as an example. So one of them has a speaker like the old driving days where you put it on the side of your car. One of the fields, the newest field, doesn't. So you have to use your radio. You tune your radio into the car and it tunes into their system.
What?
So Yeah, it's brilliant. So I took the girls there. I've been having problems with the car for probably 3 months, and what it does, it goes into this power saving mode, and because it starts all the time and it does what it's meant to do, I've never sort of taken it anywhere to get it looked at. So anyway, so I took the girls to the movies on the other night on the first, and we sat in the field, got all the stuff set up in the back of the car. I set my chair outside the car. The movie comes on. I tuned the radio in, turned the car on slightly on the first, and it cut out. Completely cut out. The radio went into power saving mode, and we couldn't do anything about it. So I was really, really down in the dumps, not for me, but for my daughters.
Yeah.
And one of my little daughters, bless her, she went, Dad, don't worry about it. She said, there's nothing you can do. And, and I said, I know, darling, but I wanted you to see this movie because you've been waiting for it for so long. And it's my fault. I should have took the car to get it looked at. And I didn't, because it was starting okay and it was still running. And she went, don't worry about it. And so that brought me out of it. But I felt more down in the dumps for them.
Yeah.
And in the end, I just went, there's another way. No, don't worry. We'll find some other way. So I said, I'll tell you what, girls, look, I can hear the radio in the car next to us. They've got their doors open because they were sitting on chairs outside of their car. So they had their doors open. I said, so you two come out of the boot of the car, sit on the chair. I'll sit in the boot. I don't need to watch it. I'll sit in the boot. You two listen to it, sit together on the chair. My daughters are quite sort of small. And I said, sit on the chair and watch it. They did that. And then eventually I said, look, let's get the picnic blanket out of the car. Many people lay on the floor at the movie. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
So I said, do you want to lay on the floor? And they went, yeah. They laid on the floor and they could hear it.
Wow.
And that's it. So you've just got to think of a different way to get out of that bad mood. And that's all.
What you didn't do there was you didn't make 5 minutes into 5 years.
No, absolutely not, mate. I can't do that anymore. I used to.
Yeah.
Honestly, like I say, I was a hypochondriac when I was younger.
Yeah.
I really was. It's like going back to things, Cuddy. I'm going to say something really, really important because you were talking about glue sniffing. I go to my shoe menders. I go to the cobblers. And this is when people say to me, oh, I started smoking again. I had a woman come back after 8 years. She went, oh, I started again. And it's because my husband smoked around me. That's why I started. I said, he's been fucking smoking around you for 8 years. That's just an excuse. I said, and I don't like reasons and excuses that people come up with sometimes. I'm just, because I've been through so many things and I know you've got to work hard sometimes. So I go back to this. So, it's just an excuse. Now, I could use the excuse every time I go to my cobbler's because he uses the same glue that I used to sit and sniff. So, and I still like the smell of it. I still like the smell of marijuana, but I don't do them.
Yeah.
So, we can like the smell of it. We can like the taste of it, but we don't have to do it anymore. Choice. It's all about choice in the end.
Choice.
Yeah. And I always say to people, your life changes by choice, not by chance. Yeah. It's by
podcast
choice.
Title.
Yes. Oh, there you go. Yeah. And it's
told you it would come up.
There you go. It's a great saying, mate, because it changes by choice. They choose to come and see people like you and I to help them change their life. It's not going to change by chance.
No,
it's not going to change. Full stop. It will not change by chance because it's very, very rare that anyone's life changes. But if you're a lottery winner, if you're desperate for money and you become a lottery winner, fantastic. That's chance.
It's not chance. You made a choice to buy a ticket.
You made a choice. Exactly. I haven't looked at it that way. Well done.
I always say that. I don't think there's anything.
That's why I sat on here with you, because you're smarter than me. You see.
You went and bought a ticket. You made a choice.
Absolutely. I've never looked at it that way. Well done, mate. Yes, absolutely. Honestly, I've never looked at it that way, but well done. All right.
You used to get all the time. Oh, you work on cruise ships. I'm like, no, I chose to go and work on cruise ships.
Absolutely.
I chose to work 12, 13 hours a day as a cruise director. And see the world. Oh, you're so lucky. I'm like, no, we made the choice. It's brutal.
Yeah, you make your own luck. There you go. It's the own saying. It's that great saying, isn't it? So there's another great. See, like I said to you, I grew up on quotes. I had to because it was the only thing around me that I could. And one of the quotes, one of my favorite as well, is that one. It's you know, your life doesn't change by chance. It changes by choice. You choose to change life. The other one is behold the turtle. He makes progress only when he sticks his neck out. A
That's
turtle
a
doesn't
good
move
one.
forward. Yeah, it's amazing. And I've heard it probably, wow, 15, 20 years ago. And I've never forgotten it because it's correct. Unless a turtle sticks his neck out, it doesn't move forward.
Yeah.
So unless you stick your neck out in life, you're not fucking going nowhere different. I can promise you.
Yeah.
You need to stick your neck out. Are you going to take chances? Do you have to go through the pain to get to the gain? Yes. Do you have to go through discomfort to get to the comfort? Yes. But it doesn't matter. It's worth it. I promise you. Well worth it in the end.
I
Yeah.
think if anybody, when people listen to this story and they'll be like, "Oh my God," what I hope when people listen to this is like, "Oh my God, I haven't got half the shit that Mark Anthony had," if Mark can move forward, I can certainly move forward. I think that's going to be the most important
Absolutely.
thing. Look, I know
Yeah.
you've got a client, and this was an excellent podcast, mate. So I'm actually going to wrap up and say thank you very much, Mark, for being a
No,
podcast
my
guest.
pleasure, mate. Thank you for having me on. It was such a great thing to get it from. Just to see that you wanted me on there was fantastic because, like I say, I do follow your stuff on Facebook and that, and I like every now and again. And so to me, it's been an honor, mate, because I liked you as a cruise director. I think I like you actually even more as this mind specialist. I really do. I think you're great. I think you know what you're doing here is wonderful.
Yeah, we should.
And you know, who knows that you might be on my podcast one day. You're one
Absolutely.
of the
I
first
will
I'd have.
say that I did a podcast because it's the same thing. I'm like, you know what? I don't mind being a guest on other people's podcasts. I love talking about the mind, how we can change, and all those
Yeah.
kind of things. And I did a podcast with someone, and I got their highest viewing figures. So there's definitely value
Well
in
done,
getting
mate.
on your podcast.
Yeah, well done. Look, can I just say as well, if anyone wants to read my story,
Yes.
they can actually get a free ebook version of it. If they just go to theroguehypnotist.com.
We'll put the links into the
Oh,
podcast.
perfect. Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's
Yep.
been an absolute pleasure, mate. And once again, thank you so much for having me on. And I really hope to do it again.
Yes.
And, you know, hopefully it'll be the other way around next time. And if not, then I'd love to come back on yours. So thanks again.
Absolutely. Mark, it's been a pleasure.
Thanks, mate.
So I'll wrap up. Thank you very much to everyone. If there's any time there's going to be a story of if it's in the mind, it can be managed, this is it. And I'm a big believer in that, of looking at choice and looking at solutions instead of staying stuck. And I think moving forward is like getting out of hot tar. When our feet are stuck, there can be a drag and there can be resistance, but the resistance will make us stronger. It will
Yes.
always make us stronger. We have to tear the muscles down before they can repair. So as always, big love from Cuddy. If it's in the mind, it can be managed, and I'll see you on the next episode. Thank you very much, Mark.
Thanks.
Anything else you want to say before I stop it?
Oh, just happy new year to everybody and keep pushing through because I promise you you'll get there if you try hard enough.
Perfect.
Thanks, mate. See you.